Hi everybody, I'm out here on my porch. I thought I would do a little porch chat with y'all over a question I received via email. This question is coming from actually from a comment and then from an email that was emailed to me. And the reason I want to make a video is because it could be a little bit long depending on what I have to say about it. The majority of the time with these videos I just get a question or a thought about something to talk about, and then I record the video and see whatever is said is said. The question itself was having to do with taking a gap year and what happens in a gap year. It also had a question about like anxiety and sleep issues and things like that. So I wanted to kind of frame the whole video regarding a gap year and how to take a gap year. I can only speak for myself and what's happened with me, and if any of those insights or sharings speak to you or resonate with you, then you can take that with you. Um, as far as my personal experience, I did take basically a gap year. It was literally a year. What ended up happening was the job that I was working at, it was a grant funded project, and the grant ended. And it was all in the right timing because it ended and I was out of a job. And shortly after, that's when I found out that my twin flame had died. And when my twin flame died, that kind of brought me spiraling into a lot of different behaviors and things that probably, looking back now, weren't very healthy. But of course, that's what happened. There's no changing that. But um, I was out of a job, and I took that time to kind of mourn the loss of my twin flame. And a lot of things happened in that time of mourning my twin flame. I went through different experiences that I had never thought would ever happen. And if you're interested in those, you can look back at my twin flame videos because those have more to do with twin flame. Or you can purchase my book at Amazon. I have the information in the description box. But basically, some things started happening. I started to have communication with my twin flame, and that's the sort of stuff I won't go into here, but if you are interested, you can look into that. But anyhow, in that time, because I was mourning and I also was out of a job and just different things, I would say I was in a depression or a depressive state. I got very, very low. I was crying a whole lot. Lots of things were happening that were just very emotional, strong emotions and things like that. So the question that the viewer sent me had to do with anxiety as well, like how to handle anxiety and sleep issues. So at the time, without having a job during your gap year, usually you're not working. That a gap year, if you don't know, is a year that you take for yourself, just to recuperate from maybe something stressful, maybe to take a break from work, reevaluate your life, see if you want to do something different in a career. So people take gap years for different reasons, but generally it's kind of to regroup and figure out where to go from there. So in my case, it was just all happening by chance. It wasn't something that I consciously took, but I can consider it a gap year because it was a year that I didn't push myself to go back to work or do anything specifically. So during that time of the depression state and all of that, what ended up happening was I did have some sleep issues like the viewer was talking about. The viewer had anxiety and sleep issues, or she still has. And me personally, I was experiencing something similar, but it was more depression and sleep issues. Without having a job or any reason to look for a job because you're consciously taking that gap year, you can pretty much allow yourself to stay up at night if you can't sleep. Sleep in late if you can. Of course, that would be different depending on your circumstances. If you have children, young children, or maybe some outside responsibilities that I'm not putting into account here. But in my case, I didn't have really any of those things. I had some responsibilities, but they were pretty minimal as to I could still, sleep in if I wanted or stay up late. So in the gap year, I would recommend, if there was anything to recommend, to really take time to love yourself and allow yourself whatever it is you need. If you're having sleep issues, allow yourself to go to sleep when you want to go to sleep. If you can't go to sleep, stay up and do maybe something that you enjoy doing. If you can't go to sleep and you want to watch a show, watch a show. If you want to stay up and cook something, if you want to read a book, if you want to knit, paint, whatever it is, allow yourself to do it. Right now is okay to do nothing. You're not working, you're consciously taking that time for yourself. It's a time to love yourself and discover what it is that you need. So, anxiety and depression, anything like that, is a sign that something is out of alignment. Um, Not that it shouldn't be that way, it's supposed to be that way because for whatever reason, whatever happened in your life, that's what's manifesting or occurring at that time. So, in my case, my depression mostly stemmed from just years of not really taking care of myself, and then being hit with that my twin flame died. So just a lot of combination of different things to where I was depressed. Also losing my job, it came through losing the grant, but at the same time, it was something that I was used to. So all these things, it makes sense why you would be in depression. Or, if you're in an anxiety situation, examine how did you get to the point of anxiety. Possibly it's most of the times it's just not listening to oneself and taking care of oneself. Putting others first is great, but we can't do that all the time. I would say to give maybe 50% of yourself to others and the other 50% to yourself, because a lot of times if we really examine it, we're giving the majority of ourselves to our workplace, to our family, to outside activities, things like that. If you really look at it, you think you're doing these things for yourself, but ultimately you're doing these things for others, and others are you. So others are, it's good to be, helpful to others and be involved with others, but at the same time, what you are right now is actually this individual appearance, this individual person. And yes, you are connected to everything. That's why you do have to be around others and do other things. But it is important to first take care of the vessel, the person that you are. So meeting those needs will allow you to be more in connection and to help others who are technically really you better. So taking care of yourself is very important in the gap year. That's basically what it's going to be all about. The more you take care of yourself, the more these things will start to settle and improve, like the anxiety, the depression. The more you love yourself and allow yourself grace, the more those things will just start to fall into place for you. And the more you'll start to learn about yourself. You'd be surprised, and I talked about this in my previous videos about personality and getting to know oneself, even though there is no self. We are created individual, unique expressions. We're not like anybody else, and we have preferences, we have things that bother us, we have things that calm us, and each person has something different, unique about them, and it's important to get to know what you are and what it is that you specifically need, because you can look up, how to get rid of anxiety, or, talk to someone about it, but it may be different for you. You may need something completely different. But when you take time to tune in to yourself, you will start to get to know what it is that you actually need, without so much influence from others. And this is another great thing about the gap year, is generally you're not working, so you don't have a lot of social life from maybe coworkers, or maybe even family kind of starts to be like, oh, what's going on, and they kind of stay away, or maybe they try to get in. But in my experience, it seemed like I was mostly left kind of alone, and that was actually to my benefit, because when you have too many outside influences, even though they are, part of what is everything, their influences can influence you in ways that, they think they're helping you, but at the same time, you're not really getting to know who you are and what you truly need, and listening to those small, still voices that are happening here within just this area. So I would suggest to take time to be away from people if you can. Not all the time, but just enough that you can really get to know yourself. And a lot of people are scared to be alone, scared to be home alone, scared not to have anything to do. And actually, that's where you find out who you are. So it's important to take some time to just be alone. Just be there alone, and the answers will come. It's so amazing what being alone does. I think if I could recommend anything to anybody, um, it would be to take time to be alone, even if it's just 1 week. Get yourself um, an Airbnb somewhere that you've always wanted to go, or even nearby your home. Just get out of your environment and go somewhere for a week. Or if you're very good at home and you love it, stay in your home for a week, but try to limit your responsibilities and your interactions. Let it be mostly about you. And in that moment, in those times alone, you will get to know yourself. It might be scary if you're the kind of person that doesn't like to be alone, but then you will learn how amazing and great it actually is to be alone once you get past that little hump of, uncertainty of what will happen being alone. It sounds scary, but it's actually very healing and just beneficial to the person. So the gap year is about yourself. Um, and many people, even including myself, have really enjoyed that time of aloneness and have made big changes in their lives to kind of maintain not so much like a gap year life, but they may change their profession, they may limit the work hours they do, they may spend more time at home after that. And that's actually okay. So long as you're not just sheltering yourself or becoming a hermit and never connecting with anybody again. Because everything outside of us in our environment is us. And eventually, after that gap year, after you feel ready, it's time to reconnect. Maybe not, you don't have to go full force and go back into the corporate world or some crazy high-paced job if that's no longer what resonates with you, but just getting back into your community, helping out where there's a need, making friends, talking to people, doing those sorts of things will help you be part of what is everything, because you really aren't just an individual out there on your own. You're part of everything, and everything is part of you. So getting involved even in just something like nature, watering your plants, planting a garden, talking to the birds, or, you taking your animals out for walks or whatever. Those sorts of things will start to connect you again, and you can start to come out of that gap year. So if you think about it, like in nature, if I was to pluck a flower out of the ground and put it, in a small pot, or even not even in a pot, just take it and pluck it out and put it in a vase, and, water it and all that sort of thing, it could only really survive there for so long. Eventually, what is best for that plant is for it to go back into its original environment, which is the ground, the dirt, the earth, and be planted and rooted there, where it can root itself even more deeply into what is part of it, really. And it's just like us. We can't just be plucked out of life and hidden away in a house and not talking to anybody, not doing anything, because that's not human nature. Human nature is to share and to be around others, be connected to others, share our insights. And I mean, I'm an introvert, but at the same time, I'm here speaking to y'all about this because it's human nature to want to connect, to want to share anything and everything that we can. So eventually you do have to reconnect, but you have to find out how it's best for you. And not that, the outside world is influencing you or pressuring you to do this or that. Now you're coming out of the gap year with a fresh mind of who you are, what you want, and what would benefit you or what you think would be the best life for you to lead. So it's kind of a year to work on yourself in a way, not that there's anything wrong with you, but to work on those areas if you are struggling with anxiety, depression, any of those things. That's what's happening. It's not saying anything wrong about you as a person. It's just something that's happening. It's just something that's happening. And if we look back, we could say, oh, well, maybe it's because of this. Maybe it's because of that. And that'll only just help you get some insights. But you have to remember again, when this is all seen, there is no self and nobody is really doing this. All the choices that are being made, all the conversations that are being had, all of the things that are happening are just happening really without our control. But we feel like it's part of us and we own it, and we are this individual currently in this experience, and we have this body, we're here, it feels real, and we have to treat it as such. There's no escaping reality. Ooh, I think there's I'm not sure if that's a wasp or a fly, but basically it's time to really get to know yourself, get to know this expression, and then eventually reconnect it into everything that it is, which is everything around us, which is this house, this chair, this atmosphere, even that bee or wasp or whatever it was. Reconnect with all of these things again, and in a much healthier way at that point. And it's not something that you need to stress over, that like I say, oh yes, I have anxiety, I need to fix this, I need to go get a therapist. If you're feeling like you need to do that, do that. But really, you'd be surprised what some time alone with yourself will open up for you. So that's just a little bit about the gap year, and I think I'm going to end it here because I'm not sure if that's that black thing that's flying around, I don't know if that's a wasp or what it is, but I definitely don't want to get stung. But again, this is just a little something about the gap year. But I would certainly say if you have the ability to take a gap year, really take it. And I think if you can take that gap year and really allow it to be about you. And I know I talk about there being no self and, not attaching to the self and all that stuff, but it's such a paradox. We really have to love ourselves, even though there's no self. We have to love ourselves, and then from that, love everything that is part of us, which is everything and anything that comes in our experience. So that's what I wanted to say about that. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me because I love to get questions. And if you like this video, go ahead and like it. And if you're new here and like these kind of videos, go ahead and subscribe. I have my information in the description box for you. Thank you so much for watching.